I am really bad at small talk. Like I'm insanely awful at times. See, I'm an introvert, and my introverted self, I frequently try to avoid finding myself in the position where small talk is required or expected of me in the first place. You know what I'm saying? Listen, Vibers, it's your boy Kai, and today we're going to be talking all about the ways that you can avoid the peril and the awkwardness and the overall dread of a small talk conversation. But before we begin, I have a question for you. Do you have $1 to spare? Are you looking for even more mental health insight? If you said yes to both of those questions, you should subscribe to my Patreon. It's only $1 per month. Yes, you heard that correctly, $1 each month, and you'll get access to my live stream interviews with mental health experts from around the world, daily motivation and affirmations, pictures of my cats, Hamilton and Burr, yes, that's their names, and behind the scenes looks at my mental health journey. Visit my website, thevibewithkai.com. Click on Patreon and subscribe. For $1 a month, I can play a small role in hopefully making your day just a little bit better. All right, my friends, let's get started. Listen, avoiding small talk in today's society is next to impossible. Yes, COVID is still very much a threat, but people are finding themselves back in social gatherings or events. And at these events, at these gatherings, socializing is a must. It's a thing that we have to do. Luckily, for people like you and me, small talk doesn't have to be as awful as we think it is. So today, we're going to work together to improve our small talk skill set. I can't even say that right. Small talk skill set. There we go. And not have to worry about leaving the conversation feeling like a bag of bricks just hit us in the head. So with that said, my friends, here are my 5 tips to surviving small talk conversations. Number 1, ask questions. While I do spend a lot of my time on social media platforms and podcasts and interviews educating people about mental health and trying to end the stigma, I actually don't like being in the spotlight, believe it or not. Especially in like conversational situations, like the intimate ones when it's just myself and another person or a small group of people. So what I've learned to do is I just simply ask a lot of questions. The more that we can do to take the spotlight off of us and our lives, then the less anxiety that we'll feel, and the less anxiety that we'll feel means that we'll feel better overall, right? You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like this overall little, what do you call it? Not cycle, but just like a falling of the dominoes, right? If you ask questions, then you're not going to feel as anxious, and then you're going to feel better because you are not as anxious. So from there, what you can do when you're asking these questions, use the answers that they give you to those questions to guide you to the next point of the conversation. In instances like this, you can actually use your curiosity to your advantage. There is nothing wrong with being curious. You should definitely use that in this type of situation. Number 2, embellish your responses. Okay. Before you freak out, just hear me out here, okay? Hear me out. Okay, so we obviously can't just simply ask questions nonstop during a conversation, right? That would be a little weird. At some point, we're going to have to answer some of those questions that they give to us. Now, whatever you do, try to avoid doing those one-word responses. You know what I'm saying? Where you're like, oh, fine, or I'm okay. You know, those tend to make the conversation have that awkward feel that we dread in the first place, so we can avoid that. So in instances like this, take a deep breath and then just embellish your response. I'll give an example. Let's just say somebody comes up to you and they're like, hey, how was your weekend? You shouldn't respond with it was fine, or yeah, I guess it was okay. You know, like those are the types of responses that really end the conversation just immediately, and then we kind of go into like this awkward thing, right? So I'll give you a thing that you could use, right? If somebody comes up to you and says, hey, how was your weekend? You can say something like, hey, my weekend was pretty good. I went to this delicious Italian restaurant in my town. Do you like Italian food? Because I highly recommend it. Do you see what I did there? You see how I reverted the conversation back to them, right? I was telling the truth. I went to an Italian restaurant. It was really good. And I shifted it back to them. Oh yeah, I had this really good Italian meal. Like, it was a vodka rigatoni. It's one of my favorite things. Do you like vodka rigatoni? Are you more of like a chicken Alfredo kind of person? You see how we're just reverting it back to them. That's what you can do. This is going to take practice, but trust me, it's worth it. It's something that I practice every single time I'm in a conversation like this, and it's worth it. Number 3, talk about the things around you. This one is always a lifesaver. It's a safe way to find a genuine topic to talk about, right? Like, if there's music playing, talk about the song or the artist, right? If you're at a wedding, talk about the food or a story that you have about the couple getting married. If you're at the office water cooler, talk about something work-related, perhaps a project that you're working on or some crazy customer that you had recently, right? Now, this might seem like a cop-out kind of tactic, but it's actually really useful, and you can use it to your advantage here. So that way you don't have to like rack your brain and be like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna talk about now? What am I gonna talk about now? Just open your eyes, look around, and take in the environment and say, okay, this is what I'm gonna talk about. All right, here we go. Let's point out something and talk about that. Number 4, if there is silence, do not panic. I'm going to repeat that because this is important. If there is silence, do not panic. This is something that I'm working on myself because silence is weird. The most awkward thing in a conversation is when there's like even a smidgen of silence, right? Just thinking about silence, it makes me shiver. But it's really important, however, to not panic in this situation, right? There's always going to be like a brief lull in conversation sometimes, right? It happens, okay? Both people are feeling like the silence there. It's okay, right? So whenever you find yourself in that type of situation, take a moment, take a breath, understand the vibe of the conversation, understand the vibe of the situation that you're in, and then you can either use that time to either pivot to a new topic, or even better, you can use this time to exit the conversation. You can use this time to leave and get yourself out of the small talk conversation that you don't want to be in the first place. Speaking of, by the way, that brings us to number 5. Know how to leave the conversation. This one will always be the most difficult one because ending a conversation can feel really weird, right? Especially if you're like a people pleaser like me, or if you're an empath, right? Or you don't want it to seem like you're ending the conversation because you're a meanie person, like you want to be a nice person, but you want to end it on a nice way, right? Hey, listen, it might feel weird, but it doesn't have to be. Ending a conversation gracefully, it takes a little practice, but once you do it a couple times, you'll get the hang of it. When you notice that the conversation is starting to come to a close, what you should do is end the conversation on a positive note. Smile at the person you're talking to, and then end with something along the lines of, here, I'm going to give you a couple examples of ways that you can end a conversation, right? You can say something like, have a wonderful time with your such and such plans, right? If they told you a story earlier about something. Or you could say, hey, I just realized I haven't said hello to that person over there yet. That might be your friend or something, right? I just realized I haven't said, let's just say their name is Bob. Hey, I just realized I haven't said hello to Bob yet. I'm going to go say hi to him. Hey, it was great talking to you. Another example, thanks for sharing that story about the Italian restaurant. Listen, it was great speaking with you. I'm going to catch you again later, okay? Or you can say something like, hey, listen, I do have to go in a few minutes, but hey, it was a pleasure speaking with you. Hopefully we can speak again soon. Or you can say, hey, listen, I have to run, but tell your wife or tell your husband, tell your kids I said hi, whatever it may be. Feel the vibe. Or you could say, hey, it was nice speaking with you. Hey, I'm gonna let you get going now. I'll catch up with you again soon. That way you can like throw it back their way, Or you could say, hey, this is my favorite one. This is the one that I use all the time. Actually, no, I'm going to save this one for last. Because it's my favorite one. So I'm going to save that one for last. Another thing you could say is, I have a bunch of things to catch up on, but hey, let's chat again soon, okay? Or you can say, hey, I have a phone call in like 10 minutes. I really have to go and get ready for that, but hey, it was great speaking with you. Or my personal favorite, this is the one I use all the time, especially if it's in a place that I'm not at often, right? I'll always say, hey, do you know where the restroom is? Do you know where the restroom is? And then they're going to be like, oh, yeah, it's over there or something. And you're like, oh, I have to use the restroom. But hey, it was great talking to you. That's always an easy way out. You can use any of those as inspiration, and you can make it your own. Obviously you might not be able to use those word for word, bar for bar, but like take it and then use it to your advantage, whatever it may be. Those are definitely my go-to conversation enders. Listen, take a deep breath. It's okay. Small talk is really difficult. Trust me, I get it. While you may avoid it most of the time, sometimes you're going to find yourself in its grasp, and you got to be ready for it. So hopefully those 5 things that I went over, it'll help you feel a little bit better. It'll help you feel a little more comfortable. Yeah? So just listen, good luck out there. And when in doubt, if you're going grocery shopping and you don't want to talk to anybody, use the self-checkout. That's what I do. Self-checkout is like the best thing ever invented. I'm not going to lie. I don't have to talk to nobody. Listen, friends, if you enjoyed this podcast and you want a little bit more insight and stories like this about mental health, visit my website at thevibewithkai.com, the place where I help you live a good life full of good vibes. And if you have $1 to spare, subscribe to the Vibe with Kai Patreon. For $1 a month, subscribers get access to my daily motivation, daily affirmations, live stream interviews, and behind the scenes looks at my personal life, stuff that you don't see anywhere else. I don't post this up on TikTok. I don't post it on Instagram. It's posted there on Patreon. So make sure you go there. All you have to do, go to the description of this podcast and you're going to see a link for it. Go click on it. $1. That's all it takes. With that said, my friends, thank you so much for listening. I'll see you next time. As always, much love, good vibes. It's your boy Kai.